Hey everybody, welcome back to Grammatically Correct. Today we're going to talk about simple sentences. Now I know you're thinking, simple sentences, that's kind of boring, right? Kind of basic. But actually simple sentences are really important. Not only can they stand alone, but the interesting thing about them is that you can use them as a foundation to build more complex structures. You can use a simple sentence to build a compound sentence or even a complex sentence. They also have their own variety. So if you know the different types of simple sentences, you can create a little bit of rhythm and flow to your writing just by using those basic structures. So that's why they're important. And today we're going to look at 9 different types. Once we learn those 9 different types of simple sentences, then we're going to discuss what you can do with them in your writing. So let's do a real quick review on a simple sentence, also known as an independent clause. Remember, when you're going to build a simple sentence, you always start with an actor, the subject of the sentence. Then you have to have an action, the verb of the sentence, and then you have what we call an answer, and I'm going to talk about those in a second. The actors are always a person, a place, a thing, idea, or what I call a verb actor, which is basically a gerund. Actions can be either basic to be verbs like am, is, are, do, does, did, etc., or they can be more vivid verbs, more action verbs. And finally, what is the answer? Well, whenever you have an actor and an action, usually they are doing something to a person or a thing, or they're doing them during a certain time or in a certain place, or there's a reason that they're doing them, or there's a way that they're doing them. So whenever you're ready to finish that independent clause, you usually finish it by answering who, what, when, where, why, how, or maybe to what extent. And just a quick little note, when, where, why, how, and to what extent, those are all adverbs. So if you're ever having trouble figuring out what an adverb is, if you're answering one of those questions, you're probably playing around with an adverb. Now, always, whenever you're making a simple sentence, whenever you're making an independent clause, don't forget A, actor, action, answer. So let's start with what I would consider the most basic of all simple sentences. And that's when you have one actor plus one action plus one answer. Okay, so what will our actor be? We're going to use the mountains. Obviously, the mountains is a thing actor. It's a tangible thing. What did the mountains do? We have to give them an action. They appeared. And where did the mountains appear? The mountains appeared in the distance. So that is answering the question, where they appeared. Then we put our period down and we've created the most basic of simple sentences, actor plus action plus answer. In this next example, we're going to get a little bit more complicated. This time, instead of having one actor, we're going to have two actors. So we'll have actor plus the conjunction and, most likely, plus another actor. Those two actors are going to be sharing an action, and then we'll provide at least one answer. So our actor, our first actor, is going to be Jim. We're going to keep the word and, because there's going to be two actors, Jim and Martha. So those are our two actors. What did these two people do together? Jim and Martha tanned. And where did they tan? They tanned on the beach. You put all that together and you get Jim and Martha tanned on the beach. It's not a very complicated sentence, but it's just slightly more complicated than our first simple sentence. Okay, let's get a little more complicated. Sometimes you're going to have one actor, and that actor is going to be doing two different actions. Each action will have its own individual answer. Now, the actions are what we call parallel, and they are parallel because they're both going to be the same tense. They'll both be past tense, or maybe they'll both be present tense. Okay? So our actor in this example is going to be the glass. Okay? Now, what's the first action that the glass performs? The glass tipped. Okay? Now, we need one answer, okay? It tipped how? It tipped over. Now, I'm going to keep the conjunction and, because remember, we're doing two actions. It tipped and it did something else. So we'll keep and, okay? Our next parallel action is going to be shattered, okay? So the glass tipped and shattered. It's both past tense because we want to keep our actions parallel. And where did it shatter? It shattered upon the floor. So our sentence reads, the glass tipped over and shattered upon the floor. One actor doing two different actions, each with their own answer. And sometimes we're going to have one actor doing 3 or even more actions. And these actions will also be parallel, most likely, okay? So in this example, our actor is going to be Karen. Now, what did Karen do first? Well, Karen arrived. Now, since our first action is in the ED tense, the past tense, our next two actions also will probably be in the ED tense, right? So Karen arrived where? She arrived at work. Now, we need a comma because we're going to have three or more actions, right? We have a series. So I'm going to put a comma here. Karen arrived at work. What's the next action? Well, she insulted. And you'll notice arrived and insulted both end with the ED. Whom did she insult? Well, she insulted her boss. Now, the next comma is what we refer to as the Oxford comma, and I like the Oxford comma. I always put one additional comma before the conjunction that connects the series. So I'm going to keep this comma here. She arrived at work, insulted her boss. I'm going to use the conjunction and to finish off our series, and my third action is going to be broke. This doesn't end in ED, but it is in the past tense. She arrived, insulted, and broke. And what did she break? She broke the copy machine. So we have one actor doing three actions. Karen arrived at work, insulted her boss, and broke the copy machine. Now, sometimes your actor will only be doing one action, but there will be more than one answer, okay? Now, there's two ways to do this. The first way we're going to look at this is if the answers are all the same type of answer. They're all answering the same question, for example. If that happens, they will be what we would call parallel answers, because maybe they're all answering the question what, and what, or how, and how. So because they're parallel, we're kind of creating a series again. So we're going to need those commas just like in the last example, but now the commas are only going to separate the answers, okay? So in this example, our actor is going to be the game, okay? Now, what is the game doing? Let's use a simple to be verb. The game was, okay? Now, how was the game? This is the first question we're going to answer. The game was how? It was loud. Now, we need a comma, okay? We're going to keep that comma so it's not going anywhere. We're going to answer another how question. The game was loud. How else was it? It was crowded. Now, we'll keep the next comma and the conjunction and we're going to answer the question how one more time. How else was it? It was also fun. Okay, so now we have one actor, one action with three parallel answers. The game was loud, crowded, and fun. Don't forget that second comma. Don't forget that Oxford comma. It will help with the clarity of your sentence. But what if our answers are not parallel? In other words, what if we are asking three different types of questions? In that scenario, you won't need commas because you're not generating a list, okay? So for example, if we have an actor and an action and three non-parallel answers, let's use how, when, and why, okay? We're gonna answer these three different types of questions. They're not parallel, so no commas necessary. So our actor is going to be the beach. What did the beach do? Well, we're gonna use just a basic to be verb. The beach was. First, how was the beach? It was crowded. When was the beach crowded? It was crowded yesterday. And why was it crowded yesterday? Well, because of the holiday weekend. Okay, so now if we take these three answers and we put them all together, we get the beach was crowded yesterday because of the holiday weekend. There's no commas because, again, our answers were not parallel. In this next example, we're going to do something called inverted syntax. With inverted syntax, you still have an actor, an action, and an answer. But what happens is the answer moves in front of the actor. And the answer does that. The answer will move around sometimes. Okay? So in this example, our answer, which comes first, is going to be quickly. A lot of times when you have inverted syntax, that answer will be an ly word. Okay? Now, what is the actor, or who is the actor? Okay? So quickly, he. Okay, he's a pronoun. Quickly, he did something. What did he do? He left. Quickly, he left. I could have said he left quickly. I could have even said he quickly left. But I can also say quickly, he left. I could have also put a comma after quickly. Quickly, he left. But that is not necessary, especially when you're playing around with inverted syntax. If you can treat it like an answer, if you could treat it like something that can come after the action, then you can move it to the front and not put the comma after it. Just a little trick. If you really want that comma, you really want that pause, then go ahead and add it, but it is not necessary. Quickly he left. It just flows right through. Next, there's dialogue. Now, dialogue technically is not a simple sentence usually, but I treat it as a simple sentence because it has an actor, the person who's talking. There is the action, how they're talking. Maybe they said something, maybe they asked something. And then finally, you have the dialogue, and that is what they said, right? So our actor in this case is going to be he. What did he do? He said. Now you need a comma, okay? And then you're going to hit a space bar, and you're going to have your quotation marks. The quotation marks will be facing inward towards your dialogue. What did he say? That's the answer. We should leave. We capitalize we because technically this is a sentence inside a sentence, right? But we're just going to treat it as the answer. Then you have a period inside the final quotation marks which face inward. And you put all that together and you get, he said we should leave. Actor, action, answer. I could have added another sentence inside the quotation marks. I could have said, we should leave, period. It is getting late, period. You could add another sentence after that. But ultimately, it comes down to the fact that you still have an actor, he, you still have an action said, and you still have what did he say? He said this stuff. And all that goes inside the quotation marks. Now, dialogue can also be inverted. Just like the answer can move in front of the actor, the dialogue can move in front of the actor. So the dialogue will come first here. So, of course, you need to start with a quotation mark facing inward towards your dialogue. Then you're going to write what he or she said. In this case, we should leave. Don't forget the comma. The comma goes inside the quotation marks this time because it's coming first. Then you put the quotation marks. Then you can either have the action or the actor. In this case, I'm going to put the actor first. We should leave, he said, and that's your action. Then, of course, you need your period at the end. Make sure after the dialogue you have a comma or a question mark or maybe an exclamation mark. You would never put we should leave, period, he said, period. You would never have two periods there. It's either going to be a comma, a question mark, or an exclamation mark, depending on how he said whatever it is he said. So there you go, 9 different types of simple sentences. They are all independent clauses. They all have at least one actor, at least one action, and at least one answer. But they also all have their own syntactic structure, and that gives them variety. So now that we've learned these 9 different simple sentences, what do we do with them? Well, stylistically, you always want your sentences to have variety. You want the length of them to kind of vary. That creates a rhythm and it creates a flow that will help your writing feel a little bit more smooth when somebody's reading it. In this paragraph, I only use simple sentences. It reads, the hotel phone started ringing sometime around midnight. Jade pushed off the thin blanket, sat up wearily on the edge of the bed, and looked around the black room. It took her a moment to locate the source of the irritating noise coming from the bedside table and a moment longer to pick up the receiver. Hello, she demanded. There was no reply. She asked again, hello? The only response was a slow, raspy breathing on the other end of the line. A moment later, the dial tone sounded. We are really not doing a whole lot in this paragraph. We're only using simple sentences. But because we varied those simple sentences, it didn't really feel like our paragraph was all that choppy. Here's another example using only simple sentences. There are many ways to practice grammar. Usually this occurs most commonly through the use of worksheets and textbooks. Teachers will also lecture and have students answer questions on the board. These tactics are really quite boring and even embarrassing. A much better way is to watch videos on Grammatically Correct and to learn in the comfort of your own home. So hopefully after watching this video, you see now how simple sentences are really not that boring. They have their own variety. And by using different types of simple sentences, you can build paragraphs that flow pretty smoothly and don't have that kind of choppy feeling, as long as you are sure to use different types of simple sentences, mix it up. Now, simple sentences, as I said already, are also known as independent clauses, but they can function as something called foundational clauses. And I call them foundational clauses because you can build onto them, like building onto a foundation. So that's what we're going to start doing in the next presentation. So please be sure to check out the second step to grammar mastery, compound sentences. Also, please be sure to like and subscribe to Grammatically Correct. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye-bye.